the city pulsed with its usual rhythm of noise and motion. Cars sped by, horns blaring, people rushed to meetings, the smell of roasted chestnuts and street food lingered on the sidewalks. At the corner of an expensive restaurant, a tall man in a finely tailored navy suit stepped out with his little daughter clinging to his hand. His shoes gleamed, his watch sparkled with a glint of luxury, and his very presence carried the aura of someone who had climbed far above the struggles of ordinary life. This man was Alexander Royce, one of the city's wealthiest millionaires, a self-made empire builder who had risen from the ashes of nothing to the peak of wealth. Yet despite the power and success, an emptiness lived quietly behind his eyes. People envied his life, but few knew the loneliness that walked beside him every day. His wife had left him years ago, his family ties had crumbled, and though he had his beautiful daughter Emily, there was still a hollow part of him he never admitted to anyone. That morning had been ordinary. He had promised Emily her favorite breakfast outing, so here they were, smiling waiters, the golden glow of chandeliers, and plates of pancakes stacked high. Emily, with her curly blonde hair tied back with a pink ribbon, sat happily sipping juice while her father watched her, feeling that she was the only light that kept him alive. He often thought, if not for Emily, what meaning would this wealth have? She had a heart of innocence that could melt stone, and she often saw things he overlooked, things that reminded him of a world he had left behind when money became his god. As they left the restaurant, laughter spilled into the air. Emily clapped her hands at the sight of pigeons flying up from the street. But then, in an instant, her joy turned into something sharp and startling. Just a few feet away, a young boy stood against the wall. His clothes were tattered, his face smeared with dirt, his hair messy as though it had never known a comb. In his small, trembling hands was a piece of bread, half-eaten, clutched as though it was his only treasure. His eyes, wide and tired, carried the silent pain of hunger, abandonment, and a life far from kindness. He was no more than 8 years old, yet the world had already carved scars of survival into him. Emily froze. She stared at the boy, then at her father, then back at the boy again. Her lips trembled, and suddenly, she screamed with a voice that tore through the air. "Daddy! Daddy, that's my brother!" The words cut into Alexander like a knife. He stopped, stunned, his heart thudding in his chest. For a moment, the city faded. The traffic, the voices, the noise, all became distant echoes. He turned his eyes slowly toward the boy, and something deep inside him cracked open. The boy's face, beneath the dirt and sorrow, carried a familiarity that shook him to the core. His jawline, his eyes, his expression, it was as if Alexander was staring into a mirror of his own past. The millionaire's knees weakened. A storm of memories rose inside him, memories he had tried to bury under gold and power. Years ago, before the world knew his name, he had been a man struggling in the darkness of poverty. There had been love once, a woman who had stood by his side when he had nothing. But fate was cruel. In his hunger for wealth, in his reckless decisions, he had walked away, chasing dreams, never realizing what he had lost in the shadows behind him. A child, a son. Could it be? Could this broken boy on the street be the blood of his own blood? Alexander's chest tightened. His breath faltered. And then, as if struck by lightning, tears surged from his eyes. His powerful body crumpled. Right there, on the sidewalk of his empire city, the millionaire collapsed to his knees, his arms falling helplessly at his side. He could not hold back the flood inside him. His daughter, shocked and frightened, tugged at his sleeve, whispering, "Daddy, why are you crying? Don't you see? He looks just like us." The boy stepped back, unsure, scared of the sudden attention. People turned to watch, passers-by pausing to see the sight of one of the richest men in the city kneeling on the street, crying uncontrollably before a child of the dust. Whispers spread. Some pulled out phones. Others shook their heads, wondering if they were witnessing a breakdown or a revelation. But inside Alexander's heart, there was no confusion. It was recognition. It was guilt. It was a scream from the past he could no longer silence. He reached his trembling hand forward. "Son," the word escaped his lips before he could stop it. The boy flinched, clutching his bread tighter, his eyes darting with fear. He had been hurt too many times to trust strangers. He had been ignored, stepped over, forgotten. To him, this suited man was just another figure from a world that had always turned its back. But Emily, with her pure soul, stepped toward him. She smiled gently, the kind of smile only a child could give, and said, "Don't be afraid. Daddy, he's your daddy too. I just know it." The boy's lips quivered. His stomach growled, betraying his hunger. He wanted to run, but something inside whispered to stay. And Alexander, choking on his tears, knew this was the moment that would change everything, the moment when his past and present collided, when his wealth and power meant nothing compared to the truth standing before him in rags. The world blurred around them. The only thing that mattered was the boy's eyes meeting his. 1,000 unspoken words passed between them, pain, questions, blood ties that no amount of time or distance could erase. And in that instant, Alexander Royce, the millionaire who had conquered the world, felt smaller than he had ever felt before. He whispered again, through tears streaming down his face, my son,